Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events shaping our world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. We're starting off with a developing story that's been making headlines around the globe. Tensions between Israel and Iran have escalated significantly over the past 24 hours, with both countries engaging in retaliatory strikes against each other. The situation is complex and multifaceted, so let's break it down for you. According to reports, Israel launched a series of attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, citing concerns over Tehran's accelerating nuclear program. Iran has responded with hundreds of missiles targeted at Israeli cities, including Tel Aviv Dor. The Israeli military claims to have intercepted most of the incoming missiles, but some have still managed to cause damage and claim lives. The United States has been involved in diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict, with President Trump urging Iran to reach a nuclear deal. However, those talks have now been canceled, and it's unclear what the next steps will be. We want to provide you with a balanced view of this situation, so we'll be exploring different perspectives and analysis from experts in the field. It's essential to understand the historical context and the various factors at play here, including the geopolitical implications and the human cost of this conflict. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll also be examining the potential consequences for the region and the global community. The situation is fluid, and we'll be bringing you updates as more information becomes available. We'll be discussing the role of other countries in the region, such as Oman, which was set to host talks between the US and Iran, and how they might be affected by this escalation. We'll also be looking at the potential impact on global energy markets and the broader implications for international relations. We're committed to providing you with accurate and unbiased information, and we'll be working hard to bring you the latest developments as this story unfolds. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're taking a deep dive into the world of international news and politics. Today, we're discussing the recent developments in the Middle East, specifically the Israeli attacks on Iran's nuclear program. Now, let's break down what we know so far. The Israeli military has conducted a series of sophisticated strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities, reportedly destroying key infrastructure and killing several high-ranking officials. The move has been seen as a significant escalation in tensions between the two nations, with many wondering what the consequences will be for the region. On one hand, Israel's actions can be seen as a preemptive measure to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. Israeli leaders have long stated that they will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb, and this attack may be an attempt to cripple their program before it's too late. On the other hand, Iran has vowed to retaliate against Israel, which could lead to further violence and instability in the region. The Iranian government has already begun to mobilize its military, and has issued statements condemning the Israeli attacks as acts of aggression. As we consider the implications of this conflict, it's essential to remember that there are multiple perspectives at play. While some may view Israel's actions as justified, others see them as a reckless provocation that will only lead to more bloodshed. The international community is also watching closely, with many world leaders calling for calm and restraint. The United States, in particular, has been walking a fine line, with President Trump claiming credit for the attacks, while also attempting to distance himself from them. Ultimately, the outcome of this conflict remains uncertain. Will Israel's actions succeed in preventing Iran from developing a nuclear bomb, or will they only lead to further escalation and violence? One thing is clear: the world will be watching closely as events unfold. We'll continue to monitor the situation and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's essential to consider the complexities of this conflict and the potential consequences for all parties involved. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We've got a big story to wrap up the show today. As you may have heard, President Donald Trump recently celebrated his 79th birthday, and to mark the occasion, he threw himself a military parade in Washington, D.C. The event was also intended to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. Now, I know some of our listeners might be thinking, what's the big deal about a parade? Well, this one came with a hefty price tag, and many Americans are questioning whether it was an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars. On the other hand, supporters of the president argue that it was a fitting tribute to the nation's military and its history. But here's where things get interesting. The parade coincided with a nationwide protest movement called No Kings, which saw demonstrations in all 50 states and several countries around the world. The protesters were speaking out against what they see as an increasingly authoritarian trend in the administration, and they're using the slogan, No Kings, to emphasize that the United States is a democracy, not a monarchy. According to reports, over 2,000 protests were planned, with many prominent politicians and public figures lending their support to the movement. The protesters are calling for greater accountability and transparency from the government, as well as protections for civil liberties and human rights. Now, I want to be clear that we're not taking a side here on Concrete Block. Our goal is to provide you with accurate information and different perspectives, so you can make up your own mind about what's going on. It's worth noting that the White House has stated its support for the First Amendment and the right to peaceful protest, while also condemning violence and lawlessness. As we close out today's show, I want to leave you with some food for thought. What do you think about the military parade and the No Kings protests? Do you see them as a legitimate expression of American democracy, or are they a distraction from more pressing issues? Let us know on social media using the hashtag #ConcreteBlock. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.